Hello my dear friends and welcome to my channel. Don't forget to make yourself a cup of coffee or tea if you want, because today we have very interesting stories, and one of them is a story about a woman who forgot her baby at the restaurant and then put on a crap show. Please subscribe if you haven't and I hope you'll enjoy it. My brother and I just moved to a gated community so I can be closer to my job and because it was far safer. In order to get in, you have to do one of two things. 1. Have a window access sticker that scans and opens the gate. 2. Or put in a special code in the code box that calls the resident and then they can press the button. An important thing to note is that there's 2 entrances to this community. 1. The main entrance is just a pair of gates that slowly swing open and close when the code is put in and your window sticker is scanned. The other, the private entrance, not only has the gate but also a barrier arm, like what you see at areas with restricted access, that lowers right behind a car so nobody can tailgate you. Since we're still waiting for our access stickers to arrive, my brother and I have to use our own codes to call our cell phones so we can punch in the number to let us in. A pain in the butt, but it's a huge improvement over the community we left behind. Normally, I take the private entrance because it's right by my house, but on this particular day, I had to use the main entrance so I could pick up a package that had been dropped off at the office, which isn't far away from the main entrance. Well, I get to the call box and just as I'm about to punch in my number, a beat-up blue Subaru whipped around the corner and went right up to the gate. Said Subaru belongs to my neighbor's mother, let's call her Linda, and she has a bad habit of hanging by the sticker access port and waiting for someone to buzz her in. Because of how slow the main gate opens and closes, it's not unusual for more than one car to just buzz right behind someone with an access sticker. I'll admit I've done it a few times myself. But it's an unwritten rule that you don't block the access port and just wait for someone to use the call box. Anyway, Linda has never liked my brother and me for whatever reason, and I know she's waiting for me to call and let her in, so I decided to have some fun at her expense. I noticed I was a little too far away to safely reach the call box, so I backed up, nobody was behind me, and pulled closer to the box so I could reach it without having to open my car door. Then, instead of punching in my own code, I looked up my name alphabetically, taking my sweet time pressing the scrolling button. My last name begins with an A, so for extra funnies, I pressed the Z button and took my time rolling up. Meanwhile, I'm watching for other cars who might be turning in, so I could punch in the code and let them in. Yeah, it would mean letting Linda in, but I'm not going to ruin a whole bunch of other people's days because I wanted a little revenge. Thankfully no cars came in, which is good because Linda begins honking her horn and gesturing angrily at me through her window. I was just about at my name when she leaned out her window and screamed "Gringa estúpida." Open the gate now. Now I may not know a lot of Spanish, but hearing her call me that made me stop all thoughts of petty revenge. I'm sorry, I'm at the wrong place. I shouted. I put the car in drive, did a hairpin turn that would have made a NASCAR driver drool and peeled out of there to the private entrance. I thought that'd be the end of my encounter with Linda. Oh boy, was I wrong. I get in through the private entrance, pick up my package and 10 minutes later, I'm pulled into my driveway when Victoria, my neighbor and EM's daughter, comes out to get her mail. We greet each other and chat for a few minutes about our days. I didn't tell her about her mother, not wanting to sour Victoria's mood as she's aware of her mother's behavior and is just as irritated as everyone else who's had to put up with Linda. Well, wouldn't you know it, here comes Linda's Subaru. Linda pulls in and gets out. She sees me and points to me, thanks to you, I'm late for dinner with my daughter and grandchildren. Victoria looks at me, confused. I shrugged my shoulders, not in the mood to fight, and said, I was going to let you in until you called me a gringa estúpida. Victoria flipped out. She ran up to her mother, who is a lot smaller than her, and starts screaming at her in Spanish. I can tell that whatever Victoria said was bad because right away, Linda was looking like a beaten down dog, embarrassed out of her wits. Eventually, Victoria yelled at her mother, pointing at the exist, and I heard "Salta Quay. Get out of here." Linda got in her car and drove off. Victoria apologized to me profusely. I told her it wasn't her fault and thanked her for standing up to me. Needless to say, Linda hasn't been over lately, and I don't think she will be until she learns her manners. I'd say that worked out beautifully and you didn't have to stoop at all. Nicely done, Op. Children of entitled parents seems often aware and ashamed of their behavior. So, today, my husband took me shopping at IKEA for some random items we needed but were unable to get due to previous public gatherings restrictions. We decided to make a day out of it and grab lunch at the IKEA restaurant while we're at it. Now, for clarification, due to COVID, there's certain rules and procedures to be followed in IKEA, meaning that now, you stand in queue, first to get your table number, then move forward to order and go take your designated seat, and one of the server wheels your food to you. All fine and dandy, we stand in line to get our table number, though the queue is kind of long, and we're considering scrapping this idea and just go eat elsewhere. Right next to the window is a giant menu with items offered in the IKEA restaurant. The usual meatballs, salmon, salads, and the like. In front of us stands a Karen with a kid in a stroller, which looked to be around 4 years old. Karen stares at the menu and looks over at the restaurant employee handing out table numbers. "Do you have any chicken McNuggets?" Silence. The employee is staring at her. We're staring at her. God and evolution are arguing in the background about whose fault this brain fart is, given that they are usually not served here at all, and the giant picture menu is quite clear on that subject. Not to mention that McNuggets are kind of a different restaurant chain's gig. No, we don't. I'm sorry. You don't. What kind of a kid-unfriendly restaurant is this? My child doesn't want to eat anything on your menu. I'm sorry, madam. The menu you see to your left is all that is offered. Karen huffs, grabs the table number, and moves forward. The employee glances over at us, gives us a table number, and goes, "Oh, pardon me. Madam is pregnant, you don't wait. Please, just step here to the side and follow my colleague. He'll take you to the register, so you can order." Karen's head whips around so fast I thought it might fall off. Her face is a picture of shock at unjust treatment. She glares at my 8-month pregnant belly, then at the employee and screeches. "I have a child as well." The employee, now with another one on tow, stares at her blankly and goes, "Yes, but your madam here is pregnant." I can sense him struggling not to say, "Well, you pushed yours out a while ago, didn't you?" As we leave with the other server, I can still hear her in the background, arguing that she has a child and should be given the same treatment as a pregnant woman, while the IKEA employee is still patiently trying to explain to her that it's company policy that disabled people and pregnant women have the right to cut queue, and unless she or her son is disabled or she herself is pregnant, she can't cut in. 20 minutes later, we're done with our food and we stand up to leave. I spot Karen still in queue, third in line from the register, glaring at us. I resist the urge to wave and just pat my belly happily, then waddle away with my husband. I have no doubts that IKEA is getting a bad review on Yelp or something due to not serving McNuggets and not letting her entitled self cut in line, even though she played the child card fairly early on. You don't have to be a genius to realize that McNuggets is patented. They literally can't sell chicken McNuggets legally. She should work on her manners. So, I work out as a climbing instructor at a climbing center. It's a very kid-friendly place, and we pride ourselves on making a happy atmosphere and helping kids gain some confidence. Great job. 99% parents and kids are perfectly polite and reasonable, except for this one dad who seemed to have left his brain at home. So, in addition to the climbing sessions we offer, we also have a couple rides that you need to pay extra for to get a ticket, and your child has to meet a height requirement. One of them is a large tower that you climb the side of and jump off the top into open air as a leap of faith. Despite the fact the harness systems are completely safe, it's the scariest ride in the place. This dad was in a group I was managing with what looked to be a shy boy of about 5 or 6 years of age. I had told him the child was too small and that he would need a ticket, but 10 minutes later I saw him wandering around the base of the tower and wondered what he was doing. To my horror, I saw his tiny son at the top of the tower, clearly scared for his life, while his dad is encouraging him to jump. Keep in mind, we have these height restrictions for a reason. Anyone jumping from the tower has to be fitted with a heavy-duty harness, something to cover his neck, and a helmet. Neither of which this boy had. There isn't an instructor accompanying them, so I instantly recognize what has just happened. But before I can yell to the kid to freeze so I can go up to get him, he leaps. The kid jerks in his unsafe harness and squeals in horror, swinging wildly as he descends. Luckily his harness holds and I guide him to the ground. He starts crying the moment he lands and I check to see if he's injured. Thank goodness he was fine. Once I remove the straps from the boy, I talk to the dad. Usually I'm very polite with parents, but I was quite blunt with him because I was a little shocked. You shouldn't have done that, you could have seriously hurt him. He's clearly under the height limit and you need completely different equipment for this. I wasn't going to pay extra just for this. I paid for him to climb and no one was helping me to get him up there. Because he's too small. You should have signs then. This is when I point out the multiple signs. One such sign is actually on a barrier to the tower's ladder. Even if he somehow missed the other signs, there was no way he could have removed the barrier to let his son climb without seeing it. The dad just grumbles something about a refund and tries to quickly get out of there. This is when the senior instructor has noticed the commotion and came over. For insurance purposes, he needed to have the parent fill out an injury form and to get a report from me to make sure I had done everything I could have. The dad tried to make it sound like I had just overreacted and spooked the child, but the senior instructor and the manager took my side, and just for good measure, they installed a more parent-proof barrier and yet another sign. ED tried to carry on his climbing session, avoiding the instructors and especially me. He left early, I think he was embarrassed. Haven't seen him back since. His son was extremely lucky that we use high-quality equipment, otherwise he could have broken a bone at the very least, possibly much worse. You got me when you said one dad who left his brain at home. I think some people are just completely oblivious to how it only takes a handful of meters fall to cause some serious damage. So this happened about 20-ish years ago, and I thought y'all might like it. EP. Forgetful mom, PO. Police officer. When I was in high school, I got a job bussing tables and washing dishes at a local Denny's restaurant. This place was shaped kind of like an L with two separate sections of the restaurant. You would come in the front door to the hostess station and be seated either straight ahead or to the right, and when it started to slow down, we would shut down one side for cleaning and seat all the customers on the other. The lunch rush had died down, and we closed off the empty side, and I got started wiping off tables, collecting plates etc. when I noticed in one of the booths was a baby carrier. I figured someone just forgot it and carried their kid, it happens, no big deal. I was wrong. I picked up the carrier to take it to the hostess station, and it started moving. Inside was a baby probably about 2 or 3 months old. I thought the situation was kind of funny, being a 16-year-old little crap, but my manager did not and called the police after checking the bathrooms to see if the mother had just stepped away. We kind of assumed the mom would realize the mistake quickly and come back right away. Nope. Don't remember how long it took, but she managed to get all the way home and unload her kids before realizing she forgot one, she had 2 others. Long enough for the cop to show up and take our statements. Now onto the real show. We gave our statements and the baby was in the carrier sitting at the hostess station when the EP flung open the door like she had something to prove. You idiot, seriously called the cops already? I didn't even leave the parking lot, I was gone for a minute. Ma'am, you need to calm down, we need to have a talk and I need to take your statement. I'm not saying anything to you, I'm taking my child and leaving. At this point the cop is in between EP and the baby. Ma'am, I can't let you take the child until I get a statement and you can prove you are this child parent. The women calmed down a bit and the manager showed security footage of the lady eating with the kids, so it was all squared away, or was it? Okay ma'am, I'm going to let you off with a warning, but as a mother of 3, you need to be a lot more careful. I'm going to have to forward your info to CPS for a wellness check to make sure all the children are being cared for. You have no right to talk to me that way, you have no idea what it's like being a mother. The woman was going on a tangent, pointing her finger at the cop and flailing her arms. As she was stepping closer to the cop, who was still between her and the baby, one of her finger waggings went rogue and managed to hit the cop on the bridge of the nose, and the cop immediately lost her crap and grabbed EP by the wrist and tackled her to the ground. What ensued was a lot of hair pulling, wrestling, and "I'll sue you" screaming until the cop managed to pin her to the ground, get the cuffs on her, and escort her out to the cop car, and backup arrived. Not sure what ended up happening, but I do know while all this was going on, about 20 minutes, the mom had left her other 2 kids in the car alone. Sounds like mother of the year right there. Even when she was going to be let off with a warning, she screws it up. It's unfortunate that the dad did not get the children. My fiancé, 30M, and I, 28F, recently made the call to massively reduce the size of our wedding guest list in light of COVID. We aren't getting married until next summer, but we can't be sure how things will be by then, and we didn't see the sense in piling money into a big wedding that might not happen. We also realized that we weren't fussed on the big wedding in the first place, so it actually has given us the opportunity to have the wedding that we really want. We've decided to have a small party at home with just immediate family and the bridesmaids, groomsmen, approx 15 guests. We both have large extended family, but everyone has been very understanding and supportive of the decision, or so I thought. My cousin and bridesmaid recently revealed that her mother has been discussing my wedding in full confidence, that I am going to feel guilty and end up inviting her after all. She's a woman who has often crossed boundaries in the past. Her husband, my dad's brother, died when I was quite young, and the family all gathered around her for support. I grew up alongside her children, which she has taken as license to act as a mother figure to me. This was fine when we were children, but has been intrusive as an adult. She inserts herself where my own parents would respect my independence. She regularly criticizes my choices and dismisses any opinion I have that opposes hers. She recently tried to get in to see my sister's newborn baby, even though her own husband wasn't allowed to stay more than a few minutes after the birth because of COVID rules, and me and my parents won't see her at all until restrictions lift. When we were planning the big wedding, she inserted herself when it came to invites and flowers. She compared my wedding every step of the way to my sister's big wedding 3 years ago and made insinuations about how my sister's relationship with her childhood sweetheart was superior to mine with my fiancé because we weren't together as long. Anytime we called her out on crossing the line, she would play the dead husband card. To be honest, part of my happiness with a small wedding was knowing she would have nothing to do with it. My fear now is that she is just going to show up anyway. She'll play it off as just dropping over to say congrats and pile on the guilt by mentioning how much my uncle would want to be there, which melts my dad every time, but in doing so, she'll be going against my expressed wishes and breaking all sorts of COVID rules. It would never occur to her that when I say I don't want to invite the whole family, that includes her. I would just hire a bouncer for the day and give him a list of people who got invited. It would solve a lot of problems, to be honest. Well guys, that's it for today. If you end up enjoying this video, please consider subscribing, and if you missed the last episode on the channel, I'm gonna link it right here. The story is about a kid who disturbed OP and his dog a lot, and then kid's mother came. Check this out if you haven't, and I'll see you in my next video.